Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking out some of your time today to learn about the exciting world of IT operations management, specifically service mapping. What's the difference between discovery and mapping? I know they're kind of the same, maybe, but not. A lot of people ask that, and there's confusion. So what I'm going to do is visibility. So the ITOM, ITOM BU within ServiceNow, since the New York release, decided to change their go-to-market and have a offering called Visibility. ITOM Visibility is a general nomenclature for service mapping, discovery, and event management. So that is now called Visibility. When you hear ITOM Visibility, that is a reference to the offerings, the packages or applications of discovery, mapping, and event management. So what I'm just gonna do a couple slides. I'm gonna do some slides, and a lot of it's gonna be GUI, demo. The vision, this is how ServiceNow likes to, discuss what they have to offer as it relates to visibility and the ITOM offering. A lot of customers need to really understand what is running in their environment and what's running on the stuff that is running. So if you think about, if you're responsible for an infrastructure, a data center, and you're walking in the data center and you see these servers with these blinky lights, and you walk up to a server, you have no idea what that server is doing. You don't know what's running on that server. If that server goes down, you have no idea what that's going to impact. What impact does that have to your business? Most customers, I would say all customers, really do not have that kind of visibility into their environment. So when things do occur, you could hear about customers having all of these different tools for monitoring their infrastructure, or not knowing, hey, something happened, I have no idea what that impacts. That's where visibility comes into play. That's where service mapping, discovery, and event management come in. And again, here's another slide deck or a slide kind of demonstrating, all of this different information. We have all these different tools, event sources. We're using discovery and other third-party data sets to put in the CMDB. That's great. We have all this data. How do we actually use it or apply it and contextualize it and make it useful? Because you could have all the data in the world and you could have the fastest CMDB, but if it's not doing anything beneficial to your business, then there's no point. So the whole point is to help make more intelligent decisions based on the information that you're gathering about your infrastructure. The deal is remediation, detection from event management, always as rapidly as possible, refresh your CMDB using discovery, service mapping, and if events do occur, you'll know what that impacts, how that impacts your business, your infrastructure, your end user applications. And this is the slide of slides. The whole point, bringing all these different pieces of information together, event sources, application tools, collecting metrics, applying that to what a service map is. So what is the difference between dependency mapping and service mapping? So if you take a look at this one graphic here, this screen grab with this Linux server and all of these squiggly lines drawn from it, this is what you would refer to as a dependency mapping. Dependency mapping just means this server has a bunch of things running on it. And these things that are running on it, different applications, which are connected to different disks and different network devices. So dependency mapping is just an overall base inventory of processes and applications running on a CI or a server. So anything that's running, any process, it's connected to this port, connected to this other server, connected to this physical disk. That's your dependency. So that's everything that server's running. The difference is service mapping. Service mapping only cares about a specific service running on that specific server. So it's more of a finite, laser focused view. So you don't care about all of the resources and things that are running on that server. You just care about the resources that are running on that server that are specific to a application or service. Does that make sense? You would dependency mapping occurs out of the box with discovery. So when discovery runs, no additional tweaks need to be done to enable that. Out of the box, you run discovery, fingers crossed everything works flawlessly. And if it does, you will get this view on this right side, which will have dependency mapping of all of the different components that were discovered. You would use service mapping when you are at a point where you're mature enough where you and your company, your organization can leverage and is interested in the mapping of specific services. So a service definition is something that you as an IT organization would offer the end user as a service, a portal, for example, timesheet portal. If you would take a look at if you're a banking company and you have a portal for end users to deposit their checks, that would be a service that you would map. So if you think about it, I would say if you could use a service as a verb, so if you say, hey, go Google something, that means you're going to go search it. That would be a service. Or, hey, go email this, or I want you to go ahead and run this remediation in this specific application. That would be a service. Does that make sense? I'll never tell a customer, don't leverage what you already have. What I usually recommend is using discovery and then augmenting and enhancing the discovery data with their other data sets. Any advanced functionality that a customer's looking to do, even some of the, just CMDB health, it's very difficult to tell a customer, or I would never say, hey, you know what, if your CMDB is not being refreshed frequently, or if it's not being maintained properly, I don't have any faith in it, and I would not want to take the next step. So if a customer, and I've had this happen many times, where a customer says, I want to do event management. Perfect, let's do it. So tell me about your environment, how you doing discovery? Oh, we don't have discovery. No, then we're not doing event management, because a lot of the core, the CMDB and the data has to be true or valid. And if you're running some of these advanced functions like event management, and event management requires relationships to show you what the root cause analysis is. And if that data is bad because it's manually fed, I would get discovery first and get that working So this is an interactive demonstration of the art of the possible, which tie in service mapping, obviously, and discovery and event management. So anything under that visibility umbrella. So this is, I don't know if you guys have ever done this before or ever seen an event management demonstration on the ServiceNow platform recently, but this is what it looks like, or what it used to look like. So again, a service map is a visual representation of a service that IT infrastructure company internal provides their end users, whether it be internal to the company or to the clients. So in this example here, we have each one of these boxes is a visual representation of what is defined as a business service. So a definition for this customer, there's an application, a business service called Customer Man. If I double click on that red box brings up what makes up the visual representation of all the different components that make up this application. So it makes it very easy to quickly look and see the data flow and all of the interdependencies. You could actually click on any one of these icons, and on the right side, it will actually show you the properties of this specific component, what it is, the IP address, it's a load balancer, and I see that there's 2 network connections. And another thing that I see is, oh man, this stuff is red. Why is it red? We click on it. So we can take a look. Once you open up the map, it'll show you an alert. And this alert came from event management. So the way it works is service mapping will go in and actually take a look at what is called an entry point. Entry point is how it's the entry point on how an end user would gain access to this specific business service, this offering, this application. So customer management, the way to access it, the entry point is through this load balancer. So it's this IP address. And the way that this works is it's very similar to discovery. So discovery will go out and ask all of these questions. So this is the famous discovery process slide. So discovery, the process for discovery and service mapping are pretty much identical. Service mapping does the same thing. It leverages the discovery process. So the way that it works is when you go out and map something, you're going out there and you're specifying what they call an entry point. So as I referred to earlier, in order to map a service, you specify how you would gain access to it. When you do that, the ServiceNow really does not have much information on the business service, what server it's on, what applications. It knows nothing. All you're doing is he's blindly going in with an IP address and playing 20 questions. So as he asks the configuration item, the CI, hey, what are you? He tries to classify them. What are you? Are you a server? Are you a router? Are you a switch? Okay, based on this information, because I asked you what ports are open on the network and you told me port 22, looks like you're a Linux box. Okay, now that I know you're a Linux box, I'm gonna use my credentials. And the credentials are defined in the instance, and those credentials are the username and password that are used to log into that configuration item. So he specifies the credentials, he tries the credentials until they work. He logs into them and will collect information about him. And some of that information is IP address, MAC address, what applications are running, along with what other resources are you connected to. I see that I'm trying to map an application and I see this application process running. What are you connected to, application process? I'm connected to this other server on this IP address on this port. Thank you. And then he will go and move on to the next thing, whatever the next step is in that business service. So he will start at the entry point and continue to ask questions and to the next item to figure out what the next thing is. So that is at a crazy high level how the service map is built. It's built by leveraging the discovery process and discovery patterns, along with some advanced functionality to map everything out as it relates to that specific application. So once these applications are actually mapped, now what? What am I going to use them for? There are plenty of things to use them for. One of them would be config and change management. So if I were to go in and propose a change on this server, this configuration item, so this web server, and if I were to go and put in a change, and I won't because it's going to take, I'm running out of time because there's a bunch of stuff I still want to cover. If I was to go and put in a change and submit it, it will actually alert me, because I'm putting in the change, hey, this is going to impact this business service or services. It's also going to alert the owners that there's going to, I'm putting in a request. And it's also going to, whatever it is scheduled, if I am doing any type of event management, it's going to suppress the alerts because I already have a plan change. So as I'm doing my work off hours and alerts come in because I'm doing some work, it's not going to go to the alerts console. It's not going to go to the NOC and alert anybody because it already knows that there's a plan change. Another thing that is nice is if you were to take a look up here in this chart, let's see, And I do not think the dates and times reset, which is too bad. But up here, this is actually a time chart. It's almost like a TiVo. So fast forward and rewind. So it's red, but if I would have reset the time before this demonstration, you would have seen red and green. So you could actually go back in time, and if it were green at some point over here, I could actually rewind to a point in which this business service was actually functional. And I could actually show the difference in the configuration change between when it was working and when it wasn't. So it gives you insight into what has changed. It could be something as simple as there was a planned outage, they applied a service pack, which went sideways, and it is causing issues. And the easiest way for me to see that is just by, if I would have looked, here we go. Here's a little difference. So as you can see here, at this point, the Apache server had a minor issue, and then all of a sudden, now this server is having an issue. So if I was working in the NOC, and this is what I do for a living, this is where I would live. This is what they call the operator workspace. So I'm responsible for managing the infrastructure and the environment. This is a different view, which makes things a lot easier for the people working in the NOC. So this is a quick way to get access to all of the information on the infrastructure and how to remediate in a timely fashion. So similar to the other view that I had over here, this event management dashboard, this is the new, what they call the agent workspace. Similar view. It'll actually show you the different business services. But the nice thing is I could actually click on it and it'll pull up a little pop-up box that shows specific to this business service. I have an alert. There's 27 impacted services because this configuration item. Now that's a problem. So let's take a look at the details and we can see exactly what's going on with this configuration item. So you can actually see the affected CIs for this business service. So anything that makes up this business service, the related CIs, the entry points, which is how one would gain access to this business service, that's all here. So these are all of the affected CIs. And as you can see here, any type of change, tasks, or incidents, which are mapped to the CIs, are represented here. And you can see the related alerts. So, and alerts can come from any source. So in this example, CloudWatch and SCOM, because event management, you could ingest events from any source, it doesn't matter. It could be from your own homegrown application. As long as the information that we're getting into the CMDB that's written to the event management table, we could parse it and read it. We could do the correlation, run the event rules, and apply those. So one of the cool benefits, which I've seen done a few times, is if you're, a company and here's your service portal, that everybody uses, you could actually show current status outages of your services. So you'll know that electronic messaging, we have an outage on electronic messaging. It is a lot more helpful if the event says, hey, outage electronic messaging instead of error server acme 12 dot microsoft.com is down. That doesn't mean anything. But if it says outage electronic messaging, that means something. The fun thing when it comes to discovery is to deploy discovery, if you have just 3 things, you could deploy discovery within a day, start to finish. Trick is getting those 3 things. Credentials, which is one of the 3 things. functional mid-server, which is the second. And then third is tell me which networks you want to discover. That's all you need. The trick for most people is the one item, which is credentials. Because there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of fear. So anytime that you say, hey, I need credentials, people get scared. And then when you say, oh, I need credentials for your Unix boxes and I need to elevate them and it requires sudo, that's when you hit the wall. But if you sit down with the people, depending on who you're talking to, each organization is different, and explain to them what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then go through slowly and explain to them, here's the commands that are run, here's why they're running, here's what we're collecting, here's why we need it, you'll be fine. But the trick is getting all the people in the room at the same time and explaining to them simultaneously so they all look at each other and say, I understand. That's the difficult part. All right, well, that's all I have, unless you guys have anything else.